record. There we go. Okay. And then we're going to go ahead and turn over the spotlight here to our first special guest tonight is EJay. She is from TriDot and great experience as far as what she has. So she leads the curriculum with the development of Endurance Sports Coaching Institute. She's a professional triathlete. She's a USA Triathlon Level 2 Long Course certified coach and she's an ESCI certified coach. So Elizabeth earned a bachelor's degree in education from the University of Nebraska and has a master's of art degree in education. And so I would like you to give a little bit more of a personalized approach to kind of your background in this topic and why you're so passionate about it and be able to share that and kind of take it over from here. And then I will let you also take on the screen because you have a great presentation because I've already got a peek into it.
Awesome. Cool. Well, thank you so much, Colleen. I really appreciate that introduction. It is also just fantastic to be here. As you mentioned, my formal education is in education. So I was a classroom teacher for about 10 years before I decided to make triathlon more of the full-time gig. But definitely still have that heart for being a teacher and feel like I get to be a teacher every day. It's just in a different capacity. So don't have my formal classroom anymore, but yeah, still get to teach on a daily basis. I coach some athletes one-on-one. As Colleen mentioned, I do a lot with the coaching curriculum as well for Endurance Sports Coaching Institute. So get to help write the curriculum to certify other triathlon coaches, and then get the opportunity to meet with a lot of them on, I mean, a very frequent basis. As you might have seen in the like heads up for this presentation tonight too. I do have a little clip that is from Craig Alexander. One of the, I guess, privileges that I get as part of my role is that I get to work with a number of our legends. So Mark Allen, Craig Alexander, McKeely Jones, and not only like pick their brain and learn from them, but have them offer some content for the coaches that we're working with too. And it's really cool to see actually a number of them have their formal education as educators as well. And so just the way that they come across and speak about triathlon topics and the heart they have for athletes and coaches really comes across in all that they do. So we do have a nice little clip from Craig Alexander. He wasn't able to actually be on the call in person, but sends his well wishes. And yeah, we've got some good content that we were able to at least sneak in that he's going to talk about that strength recovery and injury prevention as well. Okay, so just a tiny little bit more in terms of background as to maybe why I was asked to be here today. I unfortunately have a lot of information and experience on the injury side of things. I, yeah, have spent the last couple years doing a lot of PT and rehab and coming back from a couple major injuries. Had some nasty bike crashes with a couple broken bones and needing a few surgeries to kind of correct things in terms of some soft tissue, ligaments, and tendons as well. But one of the things that it just has done is really reaffirmed my love for this sport. And I think made me a lot better coach in terms of all of the things that we can address in our body ahead of time. I mean, obviously, there are situations that are unfortunate that we can't prevent, such as a couple of the crashes that I've had, but there are also some things that we can really target. And one of the physical therapists that we have on our staff always gives this like motto about being a sniper and just really zeroing in and targeting in on those trouble areas that we have so that we can attack them before they become bigger issues. So, yeah, I'm super excited to be here. I think that these weekly webinars are an amazing thing. Whether it's your first triathlon that you've ever done or it's your first time racing Wildflower, I just feel like the weekly topics here give you such a great opportunity to really zero in on that aspect of your training and evaluate how things are going, what not need to still be tweaked and addressed. I mean, I was listening into the call last week as we were talking about the run course, and already I see, people implementing some hill work and some other training kind of tweaks that they want to make sure that they're prepared for the wildflower courses. So again, I think it's awesome. I haven't been on every single one of these calls, but I've tried to catch most of them. I think the only one I missed was on my race week. And yeah, I could not be more excited to be here with you and really just dive into this topic. So with that, I am going to go ahead and share my screen. Do have a little bit of a presentation that'll just help us walk through a couple of these things with the topics. So let's make sure that I have permission here to share. And actually, Colleen, I might need your help. It says for me to share, I have to quit Zoom and come back. So, oh, hang on. We might have it. Oh, okay. I think we've got it.
I can see your screen, EJ. You're good.
Oh, perfect. Okay, good, good, good. Didn't want to keep everybody waiting on that. All right. So, one of the things that Craig Alexander always talks about, and we've had him do a number of kind of content things for our athletes and coaches, is that the key ingredient of any successful endurance training plan is consistency. And I think that one of the things that strength training, the recovery, the injury prevention, all of these things really play into is the opportunity for you to consistently train. And so, we know that like race preparation really comes from being able to do the work. And if you are consistently fighting with a bunch of niggles, or you're super run down, or you're sick, you're injured, you're not going to be able to execute all of the training that is really needed in order for you to perform your best. And so, as I thought about tonight's presentation and just, I mean, things that we're looking at in terms of strength recovery, injury prevention, this is one of the things that really came to mind. It's like we need to do the strength work. We need to make sure we're recovering. We need to like keep injury prevention in the back of our mind so we can do the swim and bike and run training that we need to in order to perform our best. I mean, in this case for Wildflower, and then furthermore, like onto the other races that you have planned, whether it's for later this year or in the future as well. So, as I think about that, there's a couple things that really came to mind. And these are some of the key points that I want to highlight here, but then I'm also going to show the clip that Craig is going to talk about as well. And that's making sure that you allow enough time for a warm up and a cool down within each session. And that's something that I'll be honest, like as I've gotten older and as I've coming back from
No,
injury,
no, no.
um, like that has become even more important for me to make sure that I'm warmed up well, especially before intervals, that I'm taking the time to cool down and make sure that I'm stretching and doing some of that recovery after each session as well. Incorporating the strength exercises. As I mentioned, I've done a whole lot of rehab, and that I've carried over even now that I'm back on the race course and racing. That's just become of utmost importance to me, and I really prioritize that with my coached athletes as well. So we're going to talk about some strength exercises that you can incorporate and ways that you can kind of fit that into your weekly training plan as well. Um, and then the final piece of this is just knowing when it's appropriate and really helpful to seek the advice of medical professionals, whether that be for strength training and really getting the advice of a physical therapist to address any inability to move in a full range of motion, or if that is when you do have a niggle or an injury and we do need to get that assessed just to make sure that it doesn't become a bigger problem and keep you out of the sport for longer. So with that, I do want to play this about like 4 minute clip or so from Craig. And again, he wishes he could be here in person, but certainly we wanted to include him and his words here.
Today, I want to talk about something just as important as the training itself. In fact, it's crucial to your long-term success, and that is injury prevention and recovery. The key ingredient of any successful endurance training plan is consistency. So to achieve this, it's crucial to promote good recovery and avoid injury setbacks. A proper warm-up before certain sessions is a good idea. It increases blood flow, enhances your movement, and prepares your nervous system for the work ahead. Warm-ups can include light jogging, dynamic stretches and exercises, or easy cycling or swimming that gradually ramps up in intensity, particularly if there are efforts to perform in a main set. Equally important is your cool down after harder sessions. After you finish training, spend a few minutes bringing down the intensity and movement to start the recovery process. This helps promote recovery by flushing the byproducts of significantly hard exercise out of the muscles, reducing muscle stiffness and soreness that often manifests later. Cross-training and strength work can also play a big role in improved performance and injury prevention. Incorporate strength exercises in your routine that improve muscle strength, joint stability, and are specific to swimming, biking, and running, so the gains transfer well into the real world of triathlon. This can help prevent common overuse injuries and improve overall performance. For my own strength and conditioning, I always sought the advice of an expert strength coach who had experience working with endurance athletes. They can identify individual areas of weakness or poor function and then design a personalized plan to address these issues, as well as promoting overall strength gains for swimming, biking, and running. A strength coach can also teach the correct technique for performing the exercises and manage your load and progression. Doing the exercises correctly is crucial to make sure the desired muscles are being targeted and to prevent injury. Another important point, rest days and recovery are just as vital as your workouts. Your body needs time to repair and rebuild stronger after consistent training. Getting enough quality sleep and good nutrition are the cornerstones and play a foundational role in recovery. Consider other recovery techniques as well, such as massage, gentle yoga, and compression to support good muscle health and recovery. As you embark on your triathlon training, it's important to know not only how to train smart, but also when to get professional help for an issue that could potentially become an injury. While some aches and pains are a normal byproduct of consistent training as your body adapts and becomes more conditioned, there are times when you should seek expert medical attention if symptoms are not normal or don't resolve with adequate intervention and rest to make sure you heal properly and avoid setbacks. The first rule is to listen closely to your body. If you start feeling persistent pain or unusual discomfort during or after workouts, don't ignore it. Early intervention often prevents small issues from becoming bigger problems or injuries. Don't be tempted to constantly push through fatigue or soreness day after day. That can be a fast track to injury. If you always feel overly tired or notice sharp pain, it's okay to take an extra rest day or reduce your training intensity. If you do experience an injury, severe or sudden pain or persistent pain, seek professional advice early. A physical therapist or sports medicine specialist can assess and guide you, treating the symptoms as well as the underlying cause and guide your safe return to activity. Any good training plan is sustainable and promotes consistency, and that requires good recovery. The rule of thumb has always been, don't get sick and don't get injured. Staying healthy will keep you on track toward crossing that finish line strong.
All right, so just want to kind of camp on a couple of those main points that he said, and then I'll talk a little bit about some specific strength exercises as well. So when I think of strength training, one of the things that I have always found a little bit difficult as both a coach and an athlete is that it's such a broad topic. There's a lot of people that have an idea in their head about what strength training is. And it can vary wildly from person to person in terms of like their personal definition of it. And a lot of it has to do with like their sport background and maybe even, what sport they have the most experience in. So when, you talk to one person about strength training, if they come from like a powerlifting background, it's very different than somebody else that, has an idea of strength training if the most that, they've done is some body weight exercises. And not that one is better than the other, but we have to really understand how strength training fits into the triathlon training program. Because what we want this to do is really enhance what we're able to do in swim, bike, and run, and not take away from that. And I think that's where a lot of athletes get caught up into kind of a trap and they maybe go super hard in their strength workouts and then their legs are trashed and they're not able to hit their run intervals. Or they're going way too easy on the strength training because they're so afraid of what might happen and not being able to hit those sessions that they really aren't seeing any gains in like the muscle structure because they're just doing body weight exercises. And this can be a really like tricky thing for athletes to navigate and find like what that happy medium is without a lot of guidance. And so wanted to certainly give you a couple things to think about and reflect on in your own training, and then give you a couple tools that you can walk away from and a couple resources that you can use not only over, these next couple weeks as you're preparing for Wildflower, but also maybe something that you could implement beyond that, as well, because I know that race day is approaching soon. One of the things that Craig really mentioned is that we want strength training to translate well into swim, bike, and run. I know that as a coach, one of the things that I really try to do is implement some strength type work within particular training sessions. So somebody was mentioning, they've incorporated some hill work. Fantastic. That is strength training. And that's one of the things that I really try to do with my athletes, especially if they would be racing a course like Wildflower, is we need to include some hill work because that is going to be what we want to draw on in terms of the strength when it gets to race day. And we have a course that does have a lot of like elevation gain or drop. So hill work on the run is absolutely fantastic. Okay. You can kind of count that as part of the strength training. Now, it doesn't cover your bases for everything that needs to be done, but it's a really good start in making sure that we're getting like the muscle activation and the muscle strength that's going to be necessary for the demands of a particular course. Same thing with the bike. If you are on the bike trainer, making sure that you do some low cadence work. And so you're really like just spinning much more slowly at a higher gear so that you're stimulating climbing a hill is going to be very beneficial, not only for the wildflower course, but just in general to generate that good leg strength on the bike. Now, I, mentioned that you could do that on an indoor trainer. If you have hills that you can climb, or if you're nearby the wildflower course, if you're able to access, some actual hills and mountainsides outside, like that's even better. But I know that that's not a possibility for everybody, not only in terms of like terrain, but also just availability. I know that as I'm working during the week, it's very difficult for me to get outdoors for a ride. I usually save that for the weekend. And so my Tuesday rides, when I'm doing some like threshold intervals, oftentimes there will be some cadence recommendations there where it's saying like, all right, I want you to be down at like 60 RPM. So spinning really slowly, even if you don't have a cadence monitor on your bike or, a particular wattage that you're hitting, just being able to simulate those hills, whether it's outdoors for real or inside on the indoor trainer, that's great strength training as well. Again, not gonna, get you out of doing all sorts of other exercises, but that is going to translate well into the course preparation and making sure that you've got that leg strength and then a little bit of that technique practice as well for climbing that's going to be helpful on the course. For the swim, I will often incorporate things with paddles for my coached athletes. And so I will make sure that they are really engaging those lats and getting a strong underwater pull, just as we think about how much water they're able to move, because that's going to translate well into speed. And so those are things that you can do within swim, bike, and run, because I understand like we're time strapped and we're trying to already fit all of these different things into each week. And so if you can even just think about some of those things within the sessions, that's great to do. Now, when it comes to additional exercises, this is where like we can get down into, a little more of the nitty-gritty and what other things outside of swim, bike, and run should we be doing to help kind of maximize our performance and keep our bodies moving well, healthy, and strong, so we can continuously train and prepare for those events. One of the things that a lot of the physical therapists that I've worked with over the past few years have really highlighted for me is just the importance of moving well. And this kind of goes into that mobility piece that Colleen was introducing at the beginning. We want to be able to move our bodies through a full range of motion, and we want to be able to move well before we add a bunch of external load. And the reason for that is that if we're not able to move through that full range of motion, if we're not able to move well in a position, if there's a little bit of dysfunction there, that dysfunction is only going to be exacerbated if we try to add on an external load. And so if you've got one side of the body that is super duper tight and just is not able to move through a full range of motion, and you're trying to do a reverse lunge and like step backward with that while you're holding dumbbells, you might actually be making things worse instead of better if you're not moving well through that position. And so that's one of the things that we really want to think about is just how are we moving and making sure that we're moving pain-free before you add external load and grab some dumbbells or, grab a barbell, and add additional weight to something that maybe doesn't already feel good. As Crowy was saying in the video, like don't hesitate to reach out to a medical professional, a physical therapist. I know that I have gone into physical therapy clinics here in the Dallas area where I live, and I know each state is a little bit different in how they deal with health insurance and what what is considered a visit and do you need a doctor recommendation or not. But I've been able to go in and just ask for a movement assessment. And that's one of the things that I really highlight as a critical piece for my coached athletes to do too, whether they're getting on a Zoom call like this with me and I'm just saying, all right, like, let me see you do a body weight squat. Okay. Let me see you, uh, do, like touch your toes with just the left foot down or the right foot down, and just seeing how they move before we kind of graduate into some of these additional exercises, because we want to just check the box that they have the ability to move well. And if not, then that's where like involving a physical therapist would be a great thing to do. One of the things that you can see here now on the screen is just how TriDot also incorporates strength training into an athlete's weekly schedule. And so I know a couple of you on the call have kind of taken advantage of that 3-month free offer with the TriDot training plan. And if you have not, this is still applicable. I'm still going to give you some good resources. But if you are using TriDot or RunDot as you are preparing for Wildflower, make sure that you're looking into these particular strength sessions because they are on your weekly calendar and you'll see these twice a week. What's great about how TriDot includes the strength training RunDot as well is that these exercises are ones that you can do wherever. And so you don't need all of the fancy gym equipment, don't even need a gym membership. I do a whole bunch of these exercises just in my living room, and it takes me 20 minutes twice a week to get through them. They're really efficient, really effective. And in terms of like time management and trying to figure out where this fits in, I really appreciate that they can be done at home and don't need a whole lot of extra equipment. The other thing that I absolutely love about these is that each of the exercises is connected to a little video. And so if you were looking at the strength training exercises and you're like, I'm not quite sure exactly what that is, you can just click on it. And so, for example, this is the diagonal swing lifts. So the last one that's on that strength exercise list there in this session, You just click on that, video pops up. We had some of our staff members go through and actually do the demonstrations of the videos a few years ago. And so we've got all of those linked so that you have a good resource about what exercises should be done and then a video example to do them as well. Now, if you're not on TriDot or Run.Dot yet, we still want to make sure that you have some great resources. And so another place that you can find all of these drill videos is on our YouTube channel. And I would highly recommend, checking that out because there's some really good resources there. Like in the circle, yeah, I've highlighted like our strength drill series, and I'll show that again in a second. But you can see even next to that, we have our run drill series, we have our bike drill series. And so these are things that you can incorporate like as you're getting ready for your run. That you can see the one there, strides. Like again, it's not like a strength training exercise per se, but this is going to be great for the muscle activation, moving you through proper technique in the run, which is really going to benefit your running efficiency and good muscle activation for that as well. And this is where like it's just all a big part of this jigsaw puzzle. So definitely wanted to make sure that like you knew on our YouTube channel, it's just TriDot Triathlon Training. You can go, you can find all of the strength drills. I mean, there's so many of them there, and you've got a video example with each of those. Now, I did promise I would leave you with a couple like, okay, what can I do? Because if you pull up the YouTube channel and you see, okay, there's like 80 different possibilities, that might be a little overwhelming. And you're like, okay, great. Like, thanks for the recommendation, but how in the world am I supposed to sort through like which of these to do? So I'm going to give you my four like top things that I try to make sure that I do a couple times every week, even if I'm pressed for time. These are like my go-tos. First one of those is dead bugs. And when we're thinking about this, and again, now this will be in one of those exercises, so you will have a video clip. I thought about getting down on the floor and demonstrating this one, but when I lay down on the floor, it's also really hard to see with the laptop. So I'm just going to talk you through this one. But with dead bugs, you're basically laying down on your back, knees are up in the air, hands are up in the air. And what you're trying to do is really keep your core engaged, and you're trying to keep your back flat against the floor. And then you can just slowly like lower one foot down, bring it back up, like tap the heel, bring it back up, tap the other heel, bring it back up. Okay, if you get really fancy with it, you can also move the arms, alternating arms with it. I like to do this where I'm holding a stability ball between my arms and legs because it really makes sure that the core is engaged and you're keeping that back flat. And it's amazing how easy it sounds, but how difficult it is to do it well and to do more than one round of this. So some core engagement is really important for every single sport that we do. The core is going to make sure everything is connected on the swim. The core is going to make sure that you can get really good oxygen and hold a strong position while on the bike. The core is so important, especially at the end of the run segment of your triathlon, because you want to maintain that upright position, not only for, I mean, being able to have good run form, but it also really impacts your breathing. If you see some people at the very end of a triathlon, when they get really tired, what happens is their shoulders roll in and they start to kind of like scrunch down, and they just don't have great posture anymore, which really impacts their breathing. So a couple things that I always think about, like when I'm getting tired on the run, is running tall and really just engaging that core. And if you've been doing your core work, like you're going to know what that feels like. That engagement is really going to benefit you at the end of the run. So dead bugs, okay, that's one that if you're strapped for time, you're still going to do this week. You can find like 3 minutes and incorporate that in. And then as we think about like just really good movement through the lower body in particular, is going to be a deadlift. Now, I personally like doing a trap bar deadlift. And so what that is instead of just having like the barbell in front of you, you basically step inside of kind of a little like triangle, rectangle type shape. And then you have the weight on either side of you. And then you're just hinging at the hips. And that hip hinge is super important, especially for great position on the bike. And so, one of the things that is really important to have is a really good hinge where you don't have that major flexion in the back, but you are able to just bend at the hips. And so, deadlifts are great. I like doing them with a trap bar. You can do them with a barbell. You can do them with dumbbells at home. You'll see that as one of the recommended exercises. You can find a good video for that. But deadlifts are fantastic. They really work on the posterior side of the body, which is key because triathletes tend to be very dominant on the front side of their body. We tend to be very, very quad dominant. And what we want is to really be able to engage the glutes, engage the hamstrings, utilize the calves. We really want to engage the backside of the body. You'll hear so many people talk about like engage the glutes, engage the glutes. Okay, well, deadlifts are great for that. They engage the glutes, they engage the hamstrings, and that's going to just fire up the backside of the body and really make sure that we get those muscles online, awake, and part of the party so that they can be part of a great bike split and a very strong run. All right, step ups or tap downs. These are also great. So you can do this on your stairs at home, indoor or outdoor. I've got a little step that I have in my home gym that works great as well. You don't want this to be super high. So you don't want to be stepping like up onto a chair. You don't want like a squishy surface either. So don't try to step up onto the couch. But stairs in your home are great. Stairs outside are okay too. You can do this with or without weight, but just keeping one foot on the step and then using the other one to kind of boost yourself up and then come back down. You can also do this where you're starting on the step and then you take one foot and with your hips very stable, just tapping the other foot down and bringing it back up. And again, all of these are going to be in the videos, but those are really good recommendations. And then my last one, okay, want to give you another one for the swim. Lat pull downs are a wonderful thing to do as well. And you don't have to be at the gym to do this. This is one of those things that I recommend for my athletes with like their dry land swim training. So you can do this with just a resistance band at home. You can tie this like onto the doorknob. They have specific dry land swim bands. If you happen to have those are great tools as well. And what I really like about lat pull downs is not even so much for like muscle building, but just really having athletes get this like mental picture in their head and the feeling of using those big muscles on the back, because that's what we want to use when we're swimming. Okay, we don't want to use all of these tiny muscles within the shoulders. We really want to engage the back, and those lats are the biggest muscles back there. That's where you're going to get the most speed. That's where you're going to get the most power. And so by doing lat pull downs or just even like engaging the lats with a resistance band at home, you're going to get that feeling of how those big muscles in the back should be working during the swim. And then you can make that connection when you're in the water of like, okay, yeah, I feel my lats working. Like this is what I need to engage to get the most kind of bang for my buck in terms of the swim sessions. So you've got dead bugs, you've got your step ups, you've got your deadlifts, and you've got your lat pull downs. Okay. If you are just doing like 4 things in the next couple weeks as you prepare for Wildflower, that would be my recommendation. And then, yeah, let's get you on TriDot Rundout. Let's make sure strength training is a part of your program because that's going to include some great mobility exercises, which is going to keep you consistent, keep you healthy, keep you strong. And then you will be able to race Wildflower not only this year, but yeah, maybe move up in distance next year or be like Jen and do like both of the Wildflower races, which I'm super excited that she is also here and is able to tell us more about that. So, that is all that I have in terms of just like a strength training overview and kind of how TriDot incorporates that, a couple of the resources that you can find on our YouTube channel so that you can go through and look at like what strength exercises you might want to incorporate. If you've worked with a physical therapist or you've worked with a coach before and they've given you some exercise recommendations, you can use those videos just to kind of create maybe a list of 10 things that you want to do each week. Yeah, and I see here in the chat that Barb is saying, proper form is key. And so, yes, we want to make sure that you're looking at those videos for a great resource or working with somebody that can really help with the form corrections there as well. So I know that was a lot to just like quickly go through and try to give you as much information in a short period of time. But I guess my main takeaways are it's important. We want to make sure that you're moving well, staying strong, staying healthy so that you can do what you love. And yeah, check out a couple of those resources to help you implement that going forward.
Perfect. Thank you, EJ. You're right. That was a lot of
Yeah.
information to digest. But the great thing is these sessions are meant to be resources. So it's meant to be come in on Tuesday nights, gather as much information as you can and take away from it and go, yes, this is something that I can apply to my training this week. And so you did that. You provided a lot of great stuff. And so we will have a Q&A session at the end, but I want to give Jen a chance to talk about her strength and injury awareness and longevity, but also she has her own journey with recovery in that whole process. And so I would like to present Jen not only as a USAT certified coach, and I could say she's a level 1 coach, but as of April, it's going to be level 2 here very soon. So we are right there because it is almost April. So she's a strength coach, PN certified nutrition coach. One thing that I love about Jen is she focuses a lot on women 40 plus nutrition and specializes in a lot of certified recovery and sleep and functional training. And so I personally have worked with her on some various things, but also she is an ambassador for Wildflower because she's very passionate about the Wildflower brand, but also just we align so much on her beliefs and her way of training. And I'm just very excited to have her on board. And so, Jen, why don't you give a little bit of your background, not only into why this is so important to you, but how it is also your everyday life. You live and breathe this.
Hi, thank you. Great introduction. And I love listening to EJ because it's just like I feel like I am going to just piggyback onto everything she said. And strength, mobility, all the things. Like I feel like a lot of athletes want to dive straight in, right? They want to just swim, bike, run and jet out the door like they're 18, 19, 20. And it's really easy to just go, oh, I don't have time and skip the strength part. So making time, EJ mentioned the movement assessment, like all these things are just so important. So, I always tell my athletes, like, if you need to cut back a little bit on the run to make time, 10 minutes, there's so much research that 10 minutes, 15, 20, like minimum, it doesn't have to be. I think a lot of people feel like it's like an hour or nothing, this got to do this monster strength workout. So hopefully you guys, if you're not doing it, you'll be motivated and inspired to start doing it. And so, when you signed up for Wildflower. Wildflower is a massive stress on the body, right? It's a beautiful, wonderful, amazing event, and this is also why we do it. Is it's challenging, difficult, in a lot of ways. So what I was going to talk about, and I will share my presentation too, but um, you know, I truly believe you do want to train in a way that keeps you healthy. Yes, you want to be fast, you want to be speedy, you want to have a good training block, but it's like at the end of the end game is just like you want to be healthy, you want to show up. Most people just say, yes, I want to cross that finish line and just feel like really good. So how to handle when things don't necessarily go perfectly, and then also how to incorporate a little bit more of that strength and recovery into that. And let's see if um, okay, I just sent you a request, Colleen.
It should be coming through now.
Got it. Okay. Awesome team. Okay. Bup, 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 bup. You. There you go. We good? Can we see
Yes.
it? Awesome. Okay. Okay, so I will skip through this. This is Colleen gave me enough of an introduction. I will mention, Colleen, Colleen talked about it. So I am in the middle of a couple different injuries, and so I just think it's training smart, but it's also it's more than that, right? We can train smart, we can do all the things, and stuff can happen. We get excited, increase training load, or sometimes it's like you go on vacation, you come back, and you might not take into account like that 10% increase. So, just thinking long term while you're training. Your body might be adapting something new if you're just starting strength, for example, or if you're just starting hill work, if you're just starting sprinting, like take it easy. And sometimes it's easy to just skip all that and go straight to the end. So, building slowly, fitness is built over time. Knowing that even if you just signed up for Wildflower, like don't feel like you're behind and you need to play catch up. Sometimes people might think your neighbor's doing something that, oh my gosh, well, what do I need to do? Or your training buddy, like all there's so much that comes into it. So just kind of staying in what really truly matters for you. And I personally always want to arrive healthy and prepared. So I think that's a big thing. You go back to, okay, maybe your goals are different. So having your goals, having your values, having everything aligned so that you every day, every training, every thought process is going back to those end goals. And thinking beyond the race. So I'll talk about this actually a little bit later. So I'm dealing with a foot injury and it was weird because it was off season, right? But it was kind of a complicated compensation piece of a stress reaction happening. And a stress reaction, for those that don't know, is what happens before a stress fracture. So obviously you just want to, halt, let's go, let's figure this out, and not let's listen, right? Let's listen and back off. So there's certain things that I feel like I ask myself, I ask my athletes, you want to get clarity. EJ mentioned like having really good people in your physical therapy, massage therapist, like people that you really trust when something happens. And and it's okay to get a second opinion. It's okay if you didn't like that answer, or if you're like, oh, I want to dig a little deeper, I'm not really sure. So getting your own idea of what's happening. If someone might say surgery, someone might say no, someone might say a boot. I was saved about 15 years ago I walked into a doctor. He's like, take the boot off. You need more mobility in your ankle. So meanwhile, the orthopedic surgeon wanted to do surgery. So these things can happen. And, there's the way that you just need to choose for yourself what matters most for you. I think multiple opinions. I think being empowered to then make your own decisions is great. Using PT as part of training, EJ said it too. I tell all my clients, like I'm like, hey, what did you have? Did you have physical therapy, exercise? Do you have them from 5 years ago? Like save them because your body could go back, or maybe you are a little bit, left-sided, right-sided. Maybe you do have some, um, maybe you're not as efficient doing one thing. So going back to those PT exercise, being really consistent, like those are super, super important. And I know they're not sexy, but long term they will be because they're going to keep you doing what you want to do. So that goes along with the small work is really, really important. And a lot of that stuff can take, 5 minutes. So maybe it's just doing something 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes at noon, 5 minutes at the end of the workout, something like that, where you can really make it a priority to fit this stuff in. Adjust training, not to just be like, oh, I'm out. And of course it depends on the injury, but adjusting where you go and what you decide to do, and then just having the long term in mind. Um, this was created, but I just thought it was, kind of funny, not funny. But if you ignore, I think as athletes, we have a goal, right? We want to get there, and it's easy to ignore it. It's easy to get a diagnosis and just be like, it'll be fine. Like every morning I wake up in my shoulder and I do the arm stroke, and I'm like, is it going to just be better after that night of sleep? And so sometimes it is. Sometimes it's a little niggle. We just need to rest and get some mobility, get a massage, and other times it's time to seek help. So I like to be very proactive with my health all around instead of reactive. So thinking of injuries also as being super proactive. If you have, I when I work with my athletes, I'm like, if they're like right knee, they're like, oh, it's just a little, they're not complaining, but it's just something. It's like, oh, okay. So then I just pivot, and our strength work is all about that knee. It's all about working the chain and doing things that will help them not get injured in the long term. Um, so just adjusting, and then, making sure that they are not immediately loading. They're not putting force on it. I mentioned my foot. I could go out on a 45-minute run and probably be fine, but I'm starting more with like, oh, let's do some mini jumps, because that's what running is. Running is force over and over and over again. So if you're going to go run a 10K, you should be able to jump on a leg, single-legged. You should be able to do like double leg pogo sticks. That's what you're doing. You're applying force in those. So just thinking about different ways that you can build up to get ready to ask those questions of when can I return to doing what I love. So where I see a lot of athletes get stuck is this mindset of I'm just going to push through. I'm going to be fine. It says the workout in Training Peaks. I've got to get through it. I've been green since now, so I just want to go, go, go. So having that mentality of just like pushing through it goes back to ignoring the signs, having the all or nothing mindset. Like I've got to swim, bike, run, and nothing else. Um, Not moving at all when something hurts. So I always like to address the cause and then adjust accordingly. So, and then doing something different, right? You're usually, not always, but I had a client that broke her kneecap. She tripped, she fell on her knee, super unfortunate accident. And we were like upper body, there were so many things that we could do. So instead of just like throwing in the towel and just saying, she's like, she could have easily been like, I'm just going to be off for 3 months, 4 months. But she worked a lot on her deficiencies. She worked a lot on her upper body, and, she came back super strong. So a lot of times, and I'm sure you guys have seen it, maybe yourselves have experienced it, but people will come back stronger. And it's because they have worked on those things that have possibly caused the injury, or they took the rest that their body was needing for all this time. So it's just important to look at the overall picture. So if you feel something, do something. Adjust before it becomes a bigger issue. It doesn't have to be broken or fully strained or needing surgery. Like if it's a little something, try to get someone in your wheelhouse, speak to a coach, get online. There's so many resources now. There's a massive resource at TriDot. So there's ways to do that. Training around it. I don't mean ignoring it, but I mean putting a pull buoy in, right? Swimming with your, maybe if it's your shoulder, doing some kicking, doing some rotation drills. Um, if it's running, just starting, like maybe you can still do a squat, a deadlift. Maybe you can still do those things, but you just can't have that impact. So thinking about what you can do in things and then applying that to your current training so you can come back stronger. And a lot of times, I don't know, I'm kind of looking at mine like I don't have time sometimes to do all the things I want to do. So now I'm adding in like, oh, all these mobilities, and then I can ride my bike. So I'm like, okay, this is going to look different. So training just might look a little different, and that's okay. So, and again, I find people really do come out of these things positive and better. So what is the challenge? It's knowing when to push and when to hold back. I know for me personally, I'm always like, well, what can I do? Or, what will it look like if I race this weekend? And I'm like, well, it could push you back 3 months. And I'm like, okay, that's not good for me. If it was maybe a world championship or something, maybe that's just a decision like, okay, 3 months isn't big. I can take the 3 months off and come back. But if it's a race where I just feel like, that's just going to detour my training, not a good decision. So it's really thinking about that. And I think a stress reaction is a good example that could develop into a stress fracture if you're not careful. So there's a million injuries. There's so many things that can happen. So just thinking about what is going on with your body, what is the goal? Do I have people in my corner helping me? It's it's super frustrating. Of course, it's like, I talked the other day about like all the emotions of like, okay, the first time you're like, okay, it's okay. At first you cry and then you're sad, and then you're like denial. And then you're like, okay, I got this. I can do it, and motivated, and it's okay. And then you just go up and you work so hard on PT and you're there every day, and you're doing all your stuff. And then you're like, oh my God, this is exhausting. And I don't feel like I'm getting better. And it can be a roller coaster, for sure. So, it's have people in your corner. It's if you don't have a coach, it's like having someone that you can talk to about these things. Maybe it's journaling. It's just going back to that big picture of your values, your future goal. It's really easy to overreact. I think again, it's super emotional. Like someday I'm like, okay, I'm making the right decision. And then other days I'm like, oh, I just want to like go sprint out the door. And these are just super normal feelings. And I personally look at long term. I'm 53. Well, I'm almost 53. So I've been racing. I mean, I did Iron Kids back in like it was like 12. So with Wonder Bread. So I've been on and off racing. I haven't been like super intense racing since then, but it's been it's been a really long journey. I've learned a lot. I've been injured. I've been super healthy. Last year I did 5 halves and I was like just super healthy, felt great. And when you're healthy, take advantage of it. Like go man go, right? Use the training. Like really get after it because that's an amazing feeling. Get after it in the proper way. One question I always ask, I'll just go back to this, but will it support me long term? And if the answer is, yeah, you probably might not be able to run again, or okay, well, but could I walk again? That answer is going to be different for everyone. So whatever that question is for you, maybe write it down now, maybe have it just in your back pocket for when the time comes, because emotions can get in the way. And I always say keep showing up. I think it's a really important thing to just show up on the day to day, whatever that means. And maybe that is your 5 minutes of mobility. Maybe you're going to put your attention elsewhere. Maybe it's like, oh, I really want to start meal planning and cooking healthy food. And so, you start working on that, but just keep showing up every day and try not to crawl in that hole and keep the excitement and, keep doing something because just doing a little is going to be way more, important than doing nothing. You can always move forward. You can do different things. I've kind of hammered that a lot, and I know EJ talked a lot about that, but just, improving mobility and movement. Mobility is so key. I believe my shoulder probably got sore from the foot, like total chain, right? So something's weak and then you compensate and then it just works its way up. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, that kind of hurts. And then doesn't go away. So, doing the strength work can be really overwhelming. She mentioned 4 great exercises. Maybe you have like a rotation, the 4 and then you have another 4 and then you go rotate every other day or something. So picking that, trying not to get overwhelmed by all the noise and what you have to be doing, or everyone's talking about everything. So it's just like, ooh, okay, well, maybe after my movement assessment, I saw, oh my gosh, my left leg is a little bit weaker than the right, or my hips are not stable when I do something. So really getting that done will like 1,000% save you in the long term. And again, I know some of it is, I say, not sexy. Some of it's super boring. You're like, I just want to sweat and I just want to work really hard and lift that super heavy deadlift. And that's great as long as you have the movement and the ranges of motion to be able to do those patterns. I always like, I wrote here functional patterns, but the five main ones that I try to do in every workout is push, pull, hinge, squat, and carry. So it can be one of each items. And then like done. You know, you can, as long as you get a good warm up, you can get in and out of there in 15, 20 minutes. Um, and this is it, but just being in it for the long game and just know more is not always better. Doing things smarter is better. Paying attention to your body, like knowing when you're like super fatigued, super overtrained, underfueled, all those things versus just being tired from a workout. There's two very different feelings that you start going through. So really paying attention to your body, never ignoring what you feel, building strength, supporting your training from a strength mobility. I mean, I know we're going to have a whole nother discussion about nutrition, which is amazing. All these things fit that big puzzle of overall health. And and so a takeaway, like address something this week you've been ignoring. Maybe it's your wrist, and you're like, well, it only hurts when I do push-ups. You know, so maybe it's just like doing circles at work and doing some mobility on your wrist. But you know, all these things they seem like just we do like. I'm a big fan of foot mobility and foot massage and ankle. You know, like all these things are really important, and movement is obviously important. So not just cranking out your workouts and then calling it a day, but just including these things into your day to day, moving constantly so you don't get, especially if we're hunched over all day or if we're in a car for 2 hours, like if you go on a hard threshold run and then you jump in your car for an hour with traffic, you're probably going to be pretty tight. And tomorrow's going to feel kind of different than it might if you stretch out I know sometimes it's not always feasible, but you can kind of do some things. You know, I'm stretching out right now and you can barely tell, but stretch out your hip flexors, and there's different ways to move around. We have floor time where you just get off the couch and sit on the floor, and just make movement a little bit more of a play versus just thinking that like hardcore way. Like, okay, just think of movement as part of your day to day life, and so you can keep showing up day after day after day. You can race Wildflower, you can do maybe the double, and you can just keep coming back to challenging yourself year after year. And I will stop sharing my screen. I don't know, Colleen, do you want to have questions?
Yeah,
We keep talking.
I think this is a great time. We have a lot of information that we've presented to everybody, but I think there might be some personal injuries that people are dealing with or some questions that people have about specific exercises for certain things that people might have questions on that between the two of you guys, you're a great resource. So
Awesome.
we'll go ahead and open it up now. We do have about 15 minutes for questions. I do want to keep it specific to the topics here. I will go ahead and push some of the just general athlete 101 questions to next week, and as well as staying on a little bit longer for tonight as well for anybody who wants to stay on. We do have an athlete newsletter that's coming out later tonight that is actually covering all the topics I was going to cover on this first timer as well. So why don't we go ahead and open it up to everybody? If you have any questions, you can either raise your hand or just go ahead and ask your question.
I have a question. So I have, and I've noticed this for a while, like when I swim, I have like a rotator cuff, like it's limited my motion in my arm. What would I do to strengthen that area, like my shoulder?
Do you want me to go, EJ? I'm just gonna say you can tackle on, but this is what I've got going on. So I'm like relevant. Um, it's interesting because I do a lot of rotator cuff exercises. A great one is if you have this is a ponytail holder, but if you have a band around your arms right here, like a glute band or something, like a little elastic band, and then you raise up and then down, pressing away. That's a great one to do. And, I find because we are triathletes and because we are very forward, swimming, biking, um, running is not supposed to be, leaning forward, but posture is a big one too. So what I've been doing is really just opening up my problem, although it stems from rotator cuff, it's a really tight thoracic spine. So my spine is super tight. So every time it's loosened up, I can do it. I can move. So she's not even assessing or she's not even really touching the shoulder. So it kind of depends where yours come from. I'm not a physical therapist. I'm just talking from experience. But doing sleeper stretch is another one that you can look up. Rolling, all that area is really good. I think thoracic spine, opening up that, keeping shoulders wide, doing like Superman's, anything prone that you can do, that you can open up into the Ys. And like I can do it, and then I'm like, oh, my elbow starts bending. So it's just trying to get that rotation up, stretching. It's rotator cuff. I guess I'll be quick, but it's like it can also be pec. It can be the shoulder stabilizers. Like there's so much going on that you'll have to focus on outside of that. But keep rolling, and I'd say get a really good like a dynamic warm up before you get in the pool, so you're not just diving in and going for it. But maybe you're doing some like internal, external rotations with the bands. Um, Maybe you're doing some arm circle. There's just making sure when you are swimming that you're going in there with good proper warm up.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Now, Vic, why don't we have you go next? You asked about plantar fasciitis, which is probably common amongst a lot of people here, so it's a great one. Vic, do you want to go ahead and unmute and ask your question? Okay, I'll just go ahead and read
Okay,
it.
hey, sorry
Oh, there
about
you go.
that. Yeah, I
Perfect.
was trying to unmute. So yeah, I've been suffering from plantar fasciitis on and off for about a year or so, and I've tried a lot of different techniques, and it seems to come and go, and it's very sort of disruptive because when you wake up and you have a hard time walking across the floor, it's very difficult to find the motivation to get out and go run or to do anything. So, what do you sort of do in that situation where you have sort of this nagging injury that sort of doesn't really go away? Where do you find how do you find the motivation to get around that?
I'll go ahead
Okay.
and start, but then
Yeah.
maybe Jen wants to jump in and offer some recommendations that she has as well. First of all, sorry you're dealing with that. I think a lot of us probably have had either experience with that ourselves or a training partner, and it is no fun. I've definitely dealt with that before, and it does make not only training difficult, but it is kind of demotivating because you're like, man, I don't know. You're always like waking up, you're like, how bad is it going to hurt today? And
Right.
this is where looking at that like long-term picture can be really important. It sounds like you're already doing some things to modify, which can be really helpful. Because high impact running activity or high impact activities, like especially running or jumping, can kind of prevent the planner from getting the opportunity to fully heal. And so if you're able to substitute like lower impact exercises, as that kind of heals, then you might have better long-term relief. I had an athlete last year that was struggling with this, and so we really focused a whole lot on the bike and not a lot on the run. And so the running volume went way down. We really just increased like swimming volume, cycling volume, and that was able to like just kind of calm things down enough over the course of about 8 weeks that we could slowly get back into walking, then jogging, And once that was good, then we could get back into the running. If there's well, let me put it this way too. There's a couple other avenues that you can also explore to see if that will help without necessarily having to immediately go to like, hey, let's stop running. Um, Depending on like what footwear you're using, that can be something to look at as well. Like if just depending on how your foot is shaped and the arch, you want to make sure that that can be well supported, especially during this time. And so maybe like going to a local running store and having them just assess like how your arch is, what your footfall is. Some athletes have had really good success with just putting in an orthotic as they've been dealing with plantar and then being able to graduate out of that again once like the bottom of the foot just has a chance to chill. The other thing that I find super interesting with plantar is that it can really be aggravated by tight calf muscles. And so a lot of athletes can have really good success with actually doing like some Graston at the chiropractor or some dry needling up into the calf because it's not always like the bottom of the foot that is the main issue, that sometimes it's way up further the chain and just really addressing like the tightness in the calf, or maybe, closer to the Achilles can sometimes bring a whole lot of relief down to the plantar fascia as well. And so if you haven't, maybe visited the chiropractor, maybe have them take a look at that. And that could be a thing as well. And then the last thing is just being really mindful about the surface that you're running on because like hard or uneven terrain can often like spike up the symptoms. And so if you're able to do like a track or like a crushed gravel trail, or there's like a really nice like football infield, that might be a way to kind of like reduce some of the stress on the bottom of the foot as you're able to get back into it. Maybe let things kind of calm down with some softer surface running before you go back to like pounding the pavement. So not that that's gonna like ultimately fix it, but maybe a couple things that you can look at if you haven't explored those areas yet, alleviate some symptoms. But yeah, I'm sorry to hear that. That's not fun.
Thank you. Those are all great points. I'll definitely try those. Appreciate it. Thanks.
I
Can I
was just
jump
going
in
to
just
say,
kind of
um,
quickly? One
yeah.
way to keep run fitness up when you're fighting PF is if you can do water running, deep water running in a pool. You can, if you're consistent on keeping your running form good, you can keep it going without having to pound the pavement and let your foot relax a bit.
Great. Thank you. I'll try that too.
Yeah. And I was just going to add one other thing, trying to figure out the cause, like go back to the root cause, what's driving it, what's behind it. Does it come and go over the years, or is it just like come all of a sudden? But looking at, yeah, shoes, surface, run form, tightness, like there could be so many things. So trying to figure that little piece of the puzzle out, and a physical therapist or a movement assessment or a run coach, something should be able to help you with that. But you don't want to go back to that.
Thank you.
Good luck to you.
Appreciate it.
Get on the trails.
Perfect. Any other questions that they can help you with while they're on there? And I did put it in the chat, but Bill, who spoke up a little bit there, is the coach for the Cal Poly Triathlon team. So that was his background in helping out there. So thanks, Bill, for your input on that one. Okay. Anything else any other questions that people have about injuries or exercises that they can answer? Okay, a couple things that I put in the chat if you guys want to grab those before we jump off. I did put the link if you want to go ahead and get the 3 months free for TriDot. That is still available. And so you can go in and you can capture that. So don't miss out on that opportunity to get those 3 months free because it's not only the free training, it's all of those resources that you can get. So I did put the direct link as well as the promotional code. You can always go if you have any a problem finding that process, or I don't remember where I saw it, or any of those sort of things, those are available on our website at wildflowerexperience.com. And then you go to special offers and you can always find those as well. And they are on that section. In addition, I do have Jen's information in there with Fly Nutrition and Health. And so if you ever wanted to reach out to her, she does do some personal wellness coaching and she can just answer any questions you may have. And so, like I said, she is an ambassador of ours. And so if you just have questions about Wildflower, or about any sort of things with her personal journey, just reach out to her. She's a great help on that. And so I have the link to her profile on her website. So you can go ahead and go to that. Now, a couple things that I wanted to just throw up here so that you guys can see it here is, let me share my screen now with you. I wanted to give you guys just a reminder here of where you can find this information. So hopefully you guys can see the screen. So I said tonight that we would go over just a little bit of race information. Everything I was going to go over is all accessible on the website, but I know sometimes when you go to a website, it can just be overwhelming. Wildflower has just so many aspects to it with the camping, with the transportation, with the 8 different races, with the festival, with the yoga schedule, with all those sort of things. We are going to do a special session just exclusively for the race and race questions, festival questions, camping questions. We're going to be adding that on. We're going to get you guys out information next week on that. But what I wanted to point out is a few things that you can find. It's frequently asked questions that we've been getting into our customer service over the past 2 weeks. So I wanted to show you where they're at on the website so that you can find them. We will still answer any of these questions if you guys have them in particular. I didn't want to go over a review if you know that you can find them, but if you have a particular question, I will go over it. The race information, because this is one of the places that you can find one of the commonly asked questions that we always get. So your race confirmation, people always say, I'm not really sure how to find my confirmation, how to manage my race. I would like to make changes to my registration, update my club affiliation, figure out, what passes I've purchased, any of those sort of things. I did this back in August. I don't remember that information. So all you have to do is go to race information on the website and go to confirmation and go to active and under my events. The instructions for that are right on this page, so you can find it and it will walk you through that. Another common question that we get is, I've registered a relay team member and I don't know the process for inviting other relay team members. So that information is right here. May not apply to anybody on this call, but if you happen to have people that are in your clubs that are asking, this is a place that this is at. A couple other of the big ones that are kind of in here are packet pickup hours. So our packet pickup hours are on this page. They're in the Friday, Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon, Sunday morning. We do have a bike mechanic that is on site that will do a check of your bikes and has some basic things there. If you go back and you review the bike mechanic's tips, though, he does go over a few suggestions to have checked at your local bike shops, which are hard things to find, but pretty inexpensive things that you can purchase prior to coming that could be really beneficial for a hilly course. So go back and check that one out. The transition area, it opens at 6 a.m. each day. The athlete newsletter that's going to be going out either later tonight, depending on how late I stay up tonight, or first thing tomorrow morning. It does open at 6 a.m. each morning. It does close at the awards ceremony. Information on the transition area is in that athlete newsletter. The other thing that we get commonly asked is the age group awards. That is all on this page as well. So you can find that along with the USAT rules. All that's linked right here, and it makes it really easy for you to go in and just grab that and look at it at your own, leisure when you wanted to go in there and see that. Course cutoff times. If this is their first time triathlon, you may be wondering like, oh, are they going to kick me off the course? And, how strict are they on it? We do it for your own safety, especially if it's hot. We don't want you out there past what is safe for you to be out on course. So here are the course cutoff times. Sometimes we may go ahead and pull you off the bike and then tell you to go ahead and get onto the run. So we take you off the bike early, but allow you to go out on the run and just pull certain tags as like. So we work with you on that stuff. We want you to have a great wildflower experience, but our first priority is always safety. So that's why these are in place. So go ahead and look at those course cutoffs and maybe evaluate where you're at in your training and if you need to change some of manage your race to either upgrade or downgrade or any of those sort of things. Um, and then the other one that we get that I will be going over and I'm not going to gloss over is the transportation, walking trails, shuttle vans, and those sort of things. I will tell you that I have a great asset for us, which is these whole 3D maps that I can walk you through the whole venue that we're going to be able to go through and make it much easier if you've never been to Wildflower before to understand how to get around. And we will be adding that after the session that's on April 7th, where we're talking about execution and race day readiness. And so that's a great time to be talking about you because at that point, you're really thinking about what am I doing on race day? How am I getting around? How am I getting there? But also, how's my family getting around? Where are they cheering me on? What's the best place for them to go to? The biggest and the hottest question that everybody has is, will I be able to park down at Lynch this year? And, how do I access Lynch? Or, I need to get out of the park at a certain hour. That is a longer discussion than we have on tonight's call. So we are going to handle that in a whole other meeting. So the last thing that I want to handle on tonight's call, because I want to be respectful of everybody's time, is where do I find all the other sessions and all the other recordings? Because there's been some great and valuable information that we've been able to go over on all of these sessions. If you go over and you go to our blog on our website and you click blog and then you go to the First Timers Program, you can go ahead and go through our complete overview is there. So you can see our 12-week sessions. You can see what topics are coming up and everything. And then you go down here to the bottom video player. This video player that's the main one that has this watch on YouTube, it's the last session that was in there. It does take us about 3 to 4 days to go ahead and chapter each of these sessions and then get them produced for you for each episode. But then all the past ones, if you go ahead and you hold your little mouse over these, you can see the dates on them. So you'll be able to see March 18th here, and then you'll be able to see March 10th, and then you'll be able to see March 3rd, February 24th, and February 17th. So let's say I want to go back and I want to see the one that in particular was about the bike course. That was on March 10th, and you can click on it there and it will bring up the March 10th one. And then the whole recording is right there for you. So we put it in one easy access place for all of you guys to go in and be able to watch all of those videos. And then just know when you first come into that page, the latest video that is available is normally what will come up on this page. So hopefully that will make it easy for you guys to come in. And then as far as where do I find the YouTube link, just make sure you guys are going in to the Facebook page or the WhatsApp and checking that on the Monday or Tuesday prior to each of these sessions, as well as we are always emailing out to your email the Zoom link. We do not put it on this page because if we put it on this page, there's all these lovely things called bots that capture those things, and we'd have all those lovely bots on these calls as well. Unfortunately, that's the world we live in right now. I did not realize this as much as my tech guy that said, no way am I putting that link on the site. And so we are not doing that because my guy says that we're not doing that. So that is why it has to go in your email. And so just know if you haven't got that for some reason, go ahead and check the Facebook page. And even if you don't normally go to Facebook, that's the one time to go in there. And that link is always on that private Facebook group because that's where we can control who has access and who doesn't have access to those things. So a lot of information tonight, a lot of talking tonight, but hopefully very valuable for you. I want to let you know next week's session. So next week, we'll be going over nutrition and hydration. We will be talking about where all the nutrition stations are on course. as well as who our nutrition partner is. And then we will be having Dorette Franks will be our special guest for that session. We will also be having an ambassador that will be on that call that will be speaking about his tips and tricks for packing and getting ready for Wildflower for any kind of time that's left at the end of that. I always make sure that I have an ambassador. So if there's extra time at the end of them, we have topics that we can pick up. So if you have any questions, like I said, do be watching your email for the special session we're going to be doing. We're not going to be opening it just to first timers. It's going to be open to the public. And so that email will be on our social media pages because we have so many questions that are coming in about, the camping and stuff like that. We do still have some bell tents available, and our RV partner, I found out today, just bought 4 more RVs, and another partner bought 3 more RVs. So 7 RVs came up as of this week. So that is another option that wasn't available that you guys are the first ones to know about that. So if that's something that you know of or that your club is interested in, certainly either reach out to our customer service to get the direct link for that or Pismo Coast RV. One of them's not on our website because it's a private link that usually just our sponsors access, and the other one is through Pismo Coast RV. So, yes, TriDot said they just snagged one of those, and that is true. They got one of those today because that's usually exclusive to our sponsors. So, with that, that's all I have for tonight. That is a full solid hour and a half for tonight. I would like to thank EJay, thank Jen for your time tonight, all the valuable information. Thank each of you guys for joining and being a part of the First Timers Program and supporting Wildflower. Just a reminder that we do have a promotion running right now with race entries that's going through the end of the month. So check our social media for the discounted entry. In fact, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to give you this because you guys can go ahead and pass this on really quickly. Because this is normally only shared with Roka sponsored athletes, but I'm going to pass it on to you. So if you would like to pass this on to any of your friends or family that are interested in getting involved with a Roka giveaway that they're doing. This is usually exclusive to Roka sponsored clubs. I'm opening it up to the first timers tonight to be able to pass on this link. Anybody that fills out this information, and if they are a part of a club, they can go ahead and put their club affiliation in there and they sign up. As soon as they sign up with this link, it will send them a discount code to register for the race. And that is only good through March 30th. So, and this is not public. This is currently only available through Roka sponsored clubs. So this is a little treat for any of you that want to have the inside news and tips to be able to pass on. So go ahead and use that. Otherwise, thank you for tonight, and we look forward to seeing you next week, Tuesday at 6:30.